So you've got a potential seller in front of you. How do you go from potentially interested to signed contract? That's what I'm gonna show you in part 4 in my wholesaling series. All right, guys, welcome to part 4 in my wholesaling series. I'm excited to show you today how to get a deal done once you've got a potential seller in front of you. My team and I have closed over $4 billion in real estate, developed hundreds of homes, so we've closed a couple sellers. We know how to do this. I want to share with you some best practices once you actually have a seller in front of you. You know, it doesn't matter if they came through a prospecting method or responded to an ad, right? So this applies to anyone, no matter how they came into your world, whether it's prospecting or marketing. The first thing you need to do is start asking questions. Ask them if they're interested in selling and when. Ask them why they want to sell. You need to establish those two things early: timing and motivation. You want to know when they want to sell and why they want to sell. As you ask questions and learn more, you'll have more information to work with, but timing and motivation are the most important. Every time you get an objection, you can tie it back to timing and motivation. So if you find out that the seller wants to sell their home in 30 days because they're tired of the maintenance and they want to move to Florida and be in a newer condo and be closer to the grandkids, whatever it is, you're gonna remind them each time there's an objection. I wanna help you get your home sold in the next 30 days so that you can get to Florida, have a new place, not have to worry about this one, be closer to your grandkids, right? You get the point. You gotta get the timing and motivation down. Also, you wanna ask them questions about the house, all right? Ask them, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Ask them what types of repairs have been done, what types of repairs have not been done, how old's the roof, how old's the HVAC system, how old is the kitchen, the bathrooms, all of this kind of stuff. Ask them, how the windows are, right? You wanna know so that you can have a better idea of how to estimate that ARV and the cost to get it to its maximum ARV. So ask them questions like that about the house, and you also want to ask questions about their financial situation. Is the mortgage current? Are they behind on payments? Is there a pressing financial reason that's making them want to sell? Do they have other liens or judgments on the house? The more you know, the better. Ask all of these questions up front. And here's a final script tip. Tell them that in your experience, most people have a number in mind when they talk to you, and ask them what their number is. Get them to throw out a number for you, right? You want to know what they're thinking their house is worth. Typically, after you get through all these questions, you'll find out that they are either motivated by one of two things. It could be circumstance. Maybe the home needs a lot of repair and they don't want to do it. Maybe they need to move for some financial reason. Maybe foreclosure is about to come, right? So it could be circumstance. The other thing that could be driving it typically is emotions. There could be a divorce, a death, a reason that they no longer want to deal with the house. They're embarrassed about the condition. Maybe they're stressed out from dealing with tenants if it's not their own house. We see this a lot where people are just tired of tenant turnover and they just want out, they just want to get the money. So you'll typically have one of those two cases, right? Either circumstances are dictating that the seller has to sell the home, or emotional reasons are dictating that they feel like they have to sell the home. These are the types of sellers that are willing to trade the certainty and the speed of getting the deal done and maybe give up a little bit on price. And that means it's an opportunity for you to get a great deal. So when you go through this process and you understand their timing and motivation, the condition of the house, do your research, figure out the ARV, and go back to that 70% formula. Remember, 70% of ARV minus the cost of repair is the maximum you want to get the home under contract for. Less is even better. Do the research on that, look at their timing and motivation, and make them an offer. If the seller agrees, great. Now what? Well, you want to get that contract in writing. I've pulled up an example here of what a wholesaling contract is. Now, One word of caution on this, the wholesaling contract could be different in your area. I think it's always a good idea to go to a local title company or local title attorney if you're just starting out and tell them you're getting into wholesaling and you want to help them get more deals. You'll direct the wholesale deals to them for closing and ask them for an example of a title contract in your area. In general though, as you see here, the purchase and sale agreement is going to have the name of the seller, the buyer, that's you, the address of the property, the earnest money deposit. You want to keep this low, all right? You want to keep this low. It gives you more leverage the lower this is. It's going to have a final sales price, the type of financing, if there's cash or seller financing involved in it. It will have the date that the closing happens, different things about the conditions of the property here, you're gonna have the seller disclose the status of loans and liens on the property, make sure they have the ability to sell it. It's a good idea if you can to put an inspection period in here. Again, you might not be able to, but if you are, it gives you a lot more leverage. It's also a good idea to get access to the property negotiated up front, especially if the seller's not living there. It'll detail if the tenants are living there or not. So there's a lot of important things in this contract. Probably the two most important things outside of what you would traditionally think of, price, the property, the earnest money deposit, are the investor disclosure. So the seller is acknowledging here that you are an investor and you intend to make profit on this, right? And you've disclosed to them that since it's being sold quickly and off market and without repair, they're giving up value. This is important to disclose because it prevents them from later on, or makes it more difficult anyway, to come back and sue you for making a profit. So you want to have this investor disclosure in there, and you want to have the assignability clause in there. And you want to have this assignment clause in there. This gives you the right to assign it because your intention as a wholesaler is to take this deal and go sell it to someone else. So you want to have the assignability clause in there so that you have the absolute right to assign this to another buyer. So once you've come to agreement with terms, get it on paper, get the deal under contract, and start looking for the buyer that's gonna buy the deal from you. That's what I'm gonna cover, by the way, in part 5, so stay tuned for that and make sure you hit the subscribe button.